right. So again, our webinar is about how we can better connect parents who bring their kids to Awana. You know, our goal to Awana is leaders that should be obviously to build relationships with the children that we minister to, but we also want to build relationships with those families as well, don't we? So that's a priority for us in ministry. But oftentimes we don't do a very good job connecting with those parents. And, you know, it seems like it'd be a natural thing. You know, the parents come, they drop off their kids. So we should connect with the parents. And, you know, could it be that could it be because Awana leaders are children's workers, we don't do a very good job, because children's workers also are a lot more comfortable talking to children than they are talking to adults. You know, but that's why it makes us good children's workers, right? But you know, that could be part of the reason. So maybe as Awana leaders, you know, we can cut ourselves a little bit of slack in this area. But the fact is, in the culture that we live today, it's harder to connect with parents than what it was a generation ago. But here's the thing, there are still wonderful opportunities to connect with moms and dads. And we just have to find intentional ways and creative ways to do that. So during our time this evening, we're going to talk about how we can connect with parents. And of course, every church is different, and we have different kind of kids and families coming. So Chris, what are we looking like? What do we have here in the way of what folks have shared with us so far?
Let's see. Ashley wasn't sure. They have about 120 kids coming. We have about 50, and it's probably about 50-50 at our church. Oh, and we just had somebody join us. Yay. John's group didn't get it listed, so I'm not sure, but he can just verbally say.
Yeah, John, what are you guys doing?
Yeah, if we can talk to you about it. We're getting right now, we're averaging about 45 kids, 45 to 50 on a given Wednesday night. It's really difficult to say. We actually have some kids that are coming from other churches here. You know, a lot of kids that are from our church here. And if I had to guess, and I'm gonna look at the group here, I imagine we're probably 80% plus church kids.
Okay, 80% plus church kids, yeah. Okay. All right. All right, thank you. We had, I was gonna go back to the person who had just joined us, but we'll and now Becky, the church that you represent there, your club, I mean, do you have any idea from your perspective?
Actually, the church that I'm attending right now does not have an Awana program. So
I
I've
see.
been helping out in other churches that do have a program on Wednesday nights, but I've
Yeah.
several different churches.
Okay. All right. And who just joined us there? If you want to go, you can go and introduce yourself. You can find your unmute button. Yeah, go ahead.
Come to me?
Yes, I am. Yeah, if you want to introduce yourself, sorry. And where you're from?
Okay, I'm Nancy Smith, and I am from Maple Street Church of God in Hazard, Kentucky. We are new to Awana this year. We just started in the middle of August.
Okay, great. And how many kids, and what percentage are church versus unchurched for you?
Oh, well, before Awana, we was ranging probably about anywhere from 7 to 15 kids.
Yeah.
And right now we are probably about 30, 35. So we've made a big boost since starting Awana already.
Okay. And how many unchurched do you think of that group?
Oh my goodness, I'd say about 20 of them.
Okay, so a good number, yeah.
We're just starting out. I think it's pretty good. We're very well pleased.
Yeah, okay. And it's Nancy, right, Nancy?
Yeah, that's me.
Okay, all right, great. So, you think about the different type of kids that are, in the clubs that are represented, even within our webinar, we have some that are mostly church kids. We have some 50-50. We have some that, are majority unchurched kids. And that really changes the way we think about how we connect with parents. Some of us are thinking about, well, how can I get these parents, how can I challenge them to be the primary spiritual trainers of their kids and be involved with their kids with their handbooks. Others are thinking, I just want to connect with them so we can share the gospel. They're not, they don't even know what it means to disciple their kids, right? They haven't even experienced it themselves. So hopefully through this webinar, we can even see a bigger vision around what kind of job are we really doing reaching out to families in the community around us. And, are we just satisfied with the number even of unchurched kids that are coming to our clubs, and then, then connecting with those parents who a lot of times it's kind of like sending their kids to piano practice or soccer practice. I send them to you to learn how to play soccer. I don't need to do that. I send them to you to learn how to play the piano. They don't need me for that. Well, that doesn't work in God's economy. That's not how we want to look at that spiritually. So anyway, tonight we're going to be walking through the club year together, and we're going to be sharing with one another what your church does and has done, or what you've seen, and then just kick around some ideas through the whole, that whole 9-month period, 9 or 10 months of an Awana club. And we're just going to share with one another. And so again, this isn't a lecture. It's not one-way dialogue. We want everybody, talking and sharing, because that's how we learn. And that's why we call this Connect and Grow. We want to connect with one another. So let's take a minute. If you've got your hand out there, let's look at the first question, and let's just share. If you want to share anything, I'll give you a minute just to think about this, but share with the group any thoughts you have about why is connecting with parents important? Why is that important? Take a minute, maybe write down a couple things there, why you think it's important to connect with parents. So, hey, John, your group, what are a few things you guys came up with? Just you can just shout them out, or you can get them, take and collect them. John, what did you guys come up with around connecting with parents? Why do we do that? Why is it important?
I'll start off and say that, from early Awana training, it was driven into my head that we can't forget that ultimately it is the parent's responsibility to train up the child and to teach the children the gospel. And that if we don't connect with the parents, we run the risk of trying to take the place of the parents. And that can be a little dangerous.
Yeah, okay, great. Great answer. Anything else from that group?
To open the door for the gospel to present to the parents.
Yeah.
Without a doubt. And I tell the kids in the Trek group that I'm currently leading not to forget that they're only here 1 hour a week, and that we got them for an hour and we're going to teach them, but think of all the hours throughout the week where you get all these other influences. And man, I'd love to be able to connect the parents to know that they're getting the same influence they get in church a few more hours a week.
Yeah, that's so true. One statistic recently said that church kids in our culture, on average, are in church 1.7 times a month now, on average. And so that just drives that point home even further, is impacting the home through the parents who are the primary influencers of their children and should be spiritually. Okay, anything else? Just with Becky or Ashley or Nancy, anybody else have anything that popped in your mind?
I would think to show God's love to the parents, to reassure
Yeah.
them that we're there to encourage them and support them, to provide them resources.
Yeah. Love that. Yeah, you don't parent, they so appreciate, when we can give them opportunities where we can equip them, not just encourage them, but we can equip them, right, to help them in their role as a parent. Boy, that's good. Anything else, guys?
Well, I think that it's good to have them there so that they know what we're expecting and what their role is when they bring the kids to club, what we want them to do ahead of time.
Yeah, love that. So they can actually, they can see it. They can see what's happening on Wednesday night or Sunday night and see what their kids are doing and the important role that they play. It just familiarizes those parents with what we're doing and what we're expecting of their children and how they can help their children get the most out of this incredible ministry. Anything else?
I think from what I've seen, it's helped some parents and kids grow closer together too.
Wow, good. So talk about that, Ashley, like when you said you've seen or observed that, and what would that look like?
One specific family, they have 3 kids that they ended up adopting, and they're rambunctious and crazy. And last 5 years that we've been watching them, me specifically watching them, the kids have calmed down. They're listening more. The parents aren't going and talking about how they feel like they're going to explode at them because the kids aren't listening. You now see them
Wow.
going and sitting down and talking, actually going and connecting. They're reading the Bible together.
Whoa. Yeah, we've heard stories where unsaved parents have come in and found the pastor, and the pastor was like a little nervous, and because the guy would say, "What have you done to my kids?" It's like, whoa, well, it was in a positive light. What have you done to my kids? They're acting different at home. What are you guys doing here? And boy, that's good. So good.
Well, in
That's
some
great.
cases with unchurched children coming to club, it may be the first time parents have been in actual church setting.
Hey, that's right. Yeah, so, and we're going to talk about that here in a little bit. That's not easy for some parents who haven't been around church. Are we a welcoming church? Do they sense that? Is it easy or hard for them to come? What's that experience like? So, yeah. Okay, very, very good. Now, those are all great. Thank you so much. Hey, Chris, will you read? Would you mind reading Romans 12:10 for us?
Sure.
Talk about that.
Love one another with brotherly affection. Outdo one another in showing honor. Romans 12:10. And if we think about the results, if we outdid or honored parents in love, you can think about if we took the time to help the parent who's they don't know how to help their child memorize a verse. Or if we were patient with a mom who asked the same question every week, or the parent that drops a child off early, 10, 15 minutes early so they can get to the gym. Or if we came alongside a family in a tragedy, like a house fire. And this actually happened with a club we were involved in Kentucky when we lived there, and the kids did not come from our church. and their house burned down and they lost everything. Well, one of the leaders started a GoFundMe page, and we collected just their sizes and just supplied what we could. And the parents were just overwhelmed that a church they didn't even go to would take it upon themselves to just equip them in a terrible time of loss. You know, and if we think about the verse where if we outdid the children in love, kind of in the same aspect as parents, you know, if we were patient with that squirrely little kid who was always annoying other children, if we spent extra time with the child who struggles with memorizing, if we get excited about a child's achievements or just trying hard, if we made sure the church kid wasn't overlooked because they weren't misbehaving and they were doing what was asked for them. And, you know, I think we have the opportunity and the privilege to reach out and engage with children and their families. You know, not only is it a God-given responsibility, but it's also an incredible opportunity that we have as Awana leaders to reach out to the children and families.
Great, Chris. Hey, thank you so much. Yeah. So with that, hey, let's dig in. Let's just leap right into our club year. And if you're following along on the handout, we break the next part of our handout around the 3 parts of our club year journey: that beginning of the year engagement, throughout the club year, and then the end of the year. So let's think about, as a group, think about our goals to connect with parents. What are some things that you have done or that you've seen to effectively connect with parents at the beginning of the club year? So let's think about the beginning. Now, in your handout, I gave you some things to think about, maybe to get our thinking going a little bit at the bottom there of page 1. But I'll just open it up to anybody on here just to talk about what are things that you have done or you do that is intentional around connecting with moms and dads at the beginning of the year. Yeah, Ashley, go ahead. You'll need to unmute there.
Too many windows. Oops. Me specifically, I've printed out a checklist, and every single week that the kids come in, we go and have the kids say the verse in front of the parents. And then when they're leaving, we go and remind them the next verse to go and work on. And there's nights where it may be a big verse, so we'll go home with a project like a coloring page or an activity for them to work on together.
Yeah, great. Okay, thanks, Ashley. Super thought, super idea. Others?
Ask them to be welcomers. Ask them to help with check-in and help with the coats and the hats and the bags and things like that are perhaps not a spiritual role, but just a helper role.
Whoa, okay. So, yeah, so we engage those parents by asking them to help volunteer at our club. And maybe it's something like that, Becky, just as simple as, you know, opening night. Hey, can you help at opening night? We have these things that we need help with. And boy, what a great way to connect. Yeah, you know, and those parents, boy, they have a vested interest in what happens on Wednesday night or Sunday night at Awana. And you know, over time, as you develop relationships with parents, boy, don't forget about that opportunity to talk to a parent about helping with Awana as a volunteer. And boy, you know, Cubbies and Sparks, you know, if that's a new Christian, that's a great place for them to start. That's a really good place, those younger age kids. Yeah, good. Okay, other things that you all do to connect at that beginning of the club year.
from Bellevue Baptist here, Mr.
Yeah.
John. The beginning of our year, they requested that all of the Awana leaders wear their shirts so we could identify with the congregation, and those would be children and parents to see who the leaders were. If they had questions to come and approach us, etc. I thought that was a great beginning of the year. And the verse. Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
The verse on the
Yeah.
back of the shirts.
I guess I'll explain that a little bit, Mike. We made custom shirts that just had our church logo on it and said that we were members of the Bellevue Baptist Awana Ministry.
Yeah.
And then we from each leader, we asked them what their favorite scripture verse was. And on the back of the shirts, we put "Ask me about," and then put that verse under it to try and strike up a little conversation and give the leaders an opportunity to explain their favorite verse to whoever would ask them.
Love that. That's great. Creative idea. Hey, maybe that'll work. You take it, you wear those to the mall too, John. That's just not.
Absolutely.
That's wonderful. Hey, while we're talking about that, as parents come in, talk about registration and what that looks like. Anybody have any horror stories, or share how they do registration and what that looks like for a parent? What do you guys do with registering kids to come to your club? Anybody want to share anything there?
We would always have an open house the week before club started for registration for as many kids as we could, so that we didn't try to have long lines on an official club night. So we would try to do it separately than the week before.
Hey, that's great. A lot of clubs will do that. It's kind of hard to have your first night of Awana be a regular night of Awana. You might try, but it'll never work. It's just too chaotic. So don't even try it. And many clubs will. Yeah, they'll do it. They'll do a kickoff night. They'll invite parents. They'll have food. They'll have special games. That way they can get those kids registered. They can connect with mom and dad. They can introduce the parents to the leaders, show them around, and hopefully, if you can work it out in your schedule, boy, it's so good to get those parents off alone by themselves, maybe while the kids are playing games, and just talk to them about how much you appreciate them sending their children to Awana. Maybe show them the handbook, talk about what their kids are going to be doing, and how those handbooks work, and the importance the important role those handbooks can play in the parent discipling their children at home. And so that's great. I was just at a church on Sunday. They're starting Awana a little late this year, but they are in northern Columbus, Ohio. They have what they call a fall fest. They had blow up things out front. They did games, and they had an illusionist come. It was a pretty big thing they've been doing for many years, but they asked me to come to talk about Awana because they're starting Awana this year. Well, I was just amazed. I walk in there, and I don't know how big this church is, but I bet there were 150 to 200 people from that community on site at the church. All the kids had their cute little Halloween costumes on. They were doing some games. And then at 6, they brought everybody, at 5:30, they brought everybody inside. They had an illusionist he was a Christian illusionist. He did some fun stuff, shared the gospel. And then I had a chance to take 10 minutes to just talk to them about Awana and, what their kids are going to get exposed to at Awana, and how this church will partner with them and lead them in their journey of faith. And then, what are they going to look like down the road? When they're 18, are they going to be ready to face a culture that many times is either ignores or sometimes is hostile to the Christian faith? And so, yeah, they have 150, 200 people there. And so, look for opportunities to do a kickoff that'll attract families into your church. Anybody tried a parents or a grandparent night? Either or, ever tried parents night?
We would do a parents' night every year where we had someone engage the kids in games or some kind of an obstacle course if it was nice weather outside, and had a lot of the student leaders and other leaders keep the kids busy while we had the parents come into the sanctuary and just handed out the guidebook and went over the requirements and what the expectations were without their kids, so that they had our attention.
Yeah. Okay, great. So you did that at the beginning. Some do it later on in the year, but that's a great time at the beginning to have the parents come to a club night early on in the year and let them experience club and see what's going there, and you get a chance to connect. Just some other things as we just run down the list here real quick. Provide parent guides. A lot of churches will have a handbook for the parents. If you want to sample that, send me an email after this, miker@awana.org, and I'll send you a sample of a parent handbook that they put together for their parents. Another idea here is introducing leaders to their parents, either a kickoff night or parent. We talked about that. How do we get the parents connected with the leaders? And of course, we could invite parents to, hey, come any time of the year you want to just hang out with us at Awana. Boy, that says so much. They probably won't, but just being told that will help them feel secure about your Awana ministry. The fact that you would invite them. So yeah. All right. Hey, we better let's move on. So that's some ideas around the beginning of your club. Let's move now into during the club year. Many of us we're really good about welcoming a welcoming approach to parents at the beginning because of everything that's going on. Then we tend to forget about them. We can lose that. So let's look at some ways we can keep that welcoming going all the way through the year. And so let's just take a minute and talk about that and think about that. And I've got, I put a few things here on the list. Any of these strike you, or any other things that you all do that you want to share? That how do you connect with parents throughout your club year? What are some things that you do?
One of the things that we tried was to have our missions pastor available on our club night, so that when parents came in, they had the option of going in and just asking any question that they might have about the Bible or anything else to that pastor. And he had coffee and refreshments in an open room, and parents could either wait there while their kids were enjoying club, or they could purpose to go in there to have a question if they had something they wanted answered.
Yeah, great. Okay. So he was kind of the designated person to connect with moms and dads, Becky, it sounds like.
Right.
That kind of is like that number 2 on our list there, having coffee, tea, or water, or refreshments. Give your parents a reason to linger. Very few will turn down or pass up, at least me, pass up a cup of coffee or a hot chocolate or something like that. So we want to give them a reason to linger, and maybe consider designating somebody that's, like Becky said, just to be, you could call them the parent connection director, or that could be, do we use greeters in our clubs to just greet people with a smile and a handshake, looking them in the eyes and welcoming them, getting to know their names. So think about the parent experience when they come in. What's our pickup and drop off procedures? What do they look like? Is it parent friendly? Can our parents easily identify who the leaders are when they come? Do they have a name tag? Do they have a lanyard? Do they have are they wearing a shirt? Bottom line, is your club a place that's welcoming to moms and dads. Any other thoughts around that?
I have a question. Can you tell
Yes.
me on that parent minute, what is that? Under that ways to connect to the parent during the year?
Oh, down at the parent minute? Yeah, somebody, that's just simply inviting parents into a part of your club experience, usually at the end, where if, let's say you do announcements and awards at the end, have parents be part of that. I think that was the idea around parent minute. You know, I remember for years when we ran a club, we had our kids in the fellowship hall, the doors were closed. We gave awards, we did announcements, we did fun stuff, and the parents were standing on the other side of the door in the hallway waiting. Why didn't I ask those parents to come in? Boy, was that short-sighted of me. So I think that's kind of the idea around the parent minute. Yeah, go ahead.
To engage more parents of coming in is to require that if their kids were Sparky age and under, that they had to physically bring the child into the church, not just drop them off. And likewise, they had to actually come in and pick them up. And then we'd have people at the door to greet them and talk to them and welcome them and just smile at them so that they could see that it wasn't a terrifying place to come into, and that
Right.
who weren't from our church felt comfortable coming in.
Hey, that's good. Yeah.
Is do the others that we're talking with, do you dismiss from the room, or do you come back to a one meeting place and dismiss from there?
Yeah, okay, so the question was, do you have them all come back to a main place, or do you dismiss room by room? Chris, you got a comment there?
Yeah, it kind of depended on how your sessions, like, we dismissed from wherever our last group was. And for the younger ones, we always dismissed from our room the parent had to pick up. And I guess on the one where everybody ended in the fellowship hall, we did have the parents come in there. And depending on how many kids you have, it would depend on how organized you have to make that for speed and pickup. But we definitely had the younger ones picked up. I think it was second grade and under, had to be picked up. And if it was from an older sibling, then we had to have permission from the parents that was okay.
Both will work, and either are very smart. Either a single location at the end, or have them come to that specific room. You know, and that's so important. And parents will appreciate that. Hey, just a comment there on a presence on, be present on social media. You know, some of you may use Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram. You know, almost everybody's out on Facebook. That's a great way to connect. Keep your parents informed with club announcements and activities that are coming up. Make sure you have permission from the parents to post any pictures. And a lot of times you can have that release, that permission right on the registration form. If you want samples of registration forms, again, send me an email and we can send you some samples of some good registration forms. Some churches create a closed Facebook group, and then they invite their parents to join their Awana group. So it's closed, invitation only. Bigger clubs will even have a closed Facebook group for each club. So TNT could have their own, Sparks could have their own, or you could have a KidMin closed Facebook group, and everything is communicated there. But what a great way if you can get, you know, parents are really used to jumping on Facebook, and if you can get them to add themselves to your group, you can post all kinds of great information out there, even school closing days and and special theme nights that are coming. So, that's something to consider. Some churches they try to keep the parents there to do a Bible study or something practical for them. Meals oftentimes can draw parents in, and then the trick is, how do we keep them there, right? One pastor in Tennessee, when we talked, he said, our parents would drop off the kids for the meal and they'd take off. Or they would take off, they would come and eat, but they'd go right away. And he came up with an idea that he said's working pretty well. He would have dinner, invite parents and children, but the children would eat first. The parents would actually get the kids their food, make sure they were fed for those 15 minutes. Kids don't need long to eat, and then they send them off to Awana. Then the parents eat. Then the parents get their food, and they would try to have other church people there at the tables with moms and dads, and then that gave them a chance to connect with mom and dad. He would then have a chance he had a captive audience, and he would just share whatever he wanted to share that night. So that was a way that they used the meal time to connect with parents. Yeah.
One time at one of our churches, at the same time the kids were registering for Awana, they had a parent table, and they just said they would be going through this little book. It was a parent study, biblically based, but it wasn't necessarily a Bible study. It was more of a parenting class. And so they just had coffee, and it was very informal in a classroom, and it was a 6-week thing, so it wasn't a long-term commitment. But it was surprising how many young parents were really, especially not the church families, that were interested in coming to that. And then another church we were at, that they used to have the Wednesday night service in the sanctuary, but then realized there were a lot of parents that if they didn't come to church would never enter the sanctuary for a Bible study, but they would go to a classroom. So they moved it to a classroom, and it was very much less intimidating for the parents to come in.
That's great, Chris. Thanks. Hey, a couple other, it talks about special events, 2 big ones. One is Grand Prix. It's like Pinewood Derby. Maybe you've used it before if you've done Awana for a while, or maybe that's new to you. We have the Grand Prix cars. We can even help you maybe get a track to your area if you don't have one. Super big outreach for parents, especially dads. And then things simple like Christmas programs. Our biggest parent draw when we did Awana for 15 years was the last Wednesday night before we took the Christmas break. We did a very simple Christmas program. Each club came up with something really easy to do up on stage. And we would just go club to club to club, and we'd sing some Christmas carols. Our pastor would say a few words. We would pack the house, guys. And then we would have volunteers make Christmas cookies, and we'd have coffee and punch, a time of just gathering afterwards. That place was packed out because they wanted to see their kids up on the stage doing something, and it was something really easy. So that was a big one as well. So I want to talk a couple, just real quick, on a couple other technology things. Don't know if you use text or not to communicate with your parents, but here's reality with our young parents today. That's the preferred method of communication, is text. If you have kids in their early 20s, that, like my kids. If you try to call and leave a voicemail, the response is, "Really, Dad, you left me a voicemail?" I mean, nobody leaves voicemails, right? That's just how that's the preferred method. They don't do email like text and phone. Even Facebook, us old people taking over Facebook now, right? they don't even want to be on there because we, the old folks have taken over. So texting, there's an organization called remind.com, REMIND.com. That's a secure, safe, private way to send group texts. They don't get it like a group text. It's secure. It's just them. You can even do that, I believe, even from your PC, from their website. So you can fire stuff out there. The text only comes to them. They're not part of a big group. They won't, if there's response, we all don't like, none of us like group text, I don't think. So, and we always need to be careful not to over communicate as well. Sometimes less is better than too much. Then they stop looking at our stuff, right? So, but think about text as a way to connect with parents if you're collecting their phone numbers. Also, I want to talk about a church website briefly. This is so, our church website, this is so important. And how helpful are our websites? If we have a website or if we use Facebook, how helpful is it for parents looking for information about our Awana ministry? I look at a lot of websites. Some are really good and some not so good. In fact, some clubs have been going on for years, and when I go out to their website to get information, I can't find Awana anywhere. It does not exist. It's so important to have a website. And just some things to think about. I'm going to put them up here on the screen here. Is your Awana website or Facebook link out on the Awana Church Finder? You may not even know what the Awana Church Finder is. But if you go out to awana.org and you go up at the top, you can click on find a club, I believe it says. And if you type in your church's area code, your church should show up there, and you'll see a hyperlink that says website. Check that hyperlink, see if it works. If it doesn't, send me an email. Let me know. If you don't see your club at all anywhere, send me an email. I can help you fix that so we can get your club out on Church Finder within the awana.org website. What about your graphics and your logos? Are they up to date? Are they current? Do you have pictures of the 90s out there? Or is it, what's it look like? So what about on your website? Is there a designated place for children's ministry? It's some websites it's really hard to find. What do you guys have for kids? I can't even find it, right? And then Awana within that. Is there a designated spot there? What time do you have Awana? What are your dates? Where do I go? All those things. What's your schedule? How much does it cost? Is that out on your website? What age groups can I got a 3-year-old. Can he come to Awana? Do you have anything on Wednesday night for my kid? And I've got things like you can even have bios of your director or your leaders. Hey, here's a big one. How do I know it's safe? What do you do to make it a safe place? Do we include that information? What are pickup? When do I pick them up? How does that work? What door do I go to? Do the kids need to bring anything special? What are they going to be doing? And you can see the list there. What about registration? How does that work? Is your website easy to browse on their iPhone? That's really important. So just some things to think about with your website. Is it helpful for parents? Go out and look at it if you haven't. What would that be like for a parent? Remember, your church's website is the front door to your Awana ministry. Any other comments or thoughts around midway through the year connecting with moms and dads before we move on to the end?
We do partway through the year, at least for the Cubbies, we invite the parents to come in for the lesson, and then we hand out the awards that they've earned so far.
Okay, great. So you invite moms and dads to come in to be part of that and experience that. That's great. Super idea. Hey, by the way, there are, for TNT, there are parent pages out there for every section in those 4 handbooks. There are PDFs, you can download them, you can email them, you can print them. And it's a tool for moms and dads to use to either prep their kids for the upcoming week, or it's a backdoor thing where, hey, here's what we went over with your child this week. And here's just a tool for you to help you just engage and continue the conversation. You can find that, just go out to awana.org, go to Leader Resources, and then at the top right, there's a search key. Just type TNT or type bundle, and you'll find those bundles out there. And there's a lot of stuff within those bundles for your TNT leaders. It has the same thing. They have parent resources that you can print or email or post to moms and dads. Okay, hey, let's jump to the end of the club year. So what about the end? How can we connect with parents at the end of the year? You know, you want to finish well. You want to thank them for the privilege of working with their children and doing what you can to keep that connection going. So in the handout, I gave a few ideas there. You know, what happens, and maybe some of you can talk about what you do with awards night, you know, or a year-end night. If anybody would like to share anything that you do around a year-end celebration of your club.
You know, I want to say that this is not going to answer your question in any way, Mike. But just by you asking these questions, it's causing me, and I think the members of the group here as well, to sit here and think about, you know, we struggle, and we talk openly about how much we struggle with connecting with parents. Mm-hmm. And just to be able to hear these questions asked and to hear some things go back and forth, it's causing me to think about all the low-hanging fruit that we have over the years, perhaps either just forgotten about or gotten away from because we've gotten so wrapped up in other aspects of trying to run the club. And even though I don't have anything to say, the brain is moving a mile a minute, and I opportunity. So
I get it, John. Hey, thanks, buddy, for sharing that. Anybody want to share anything they've seen on closing awards nights and how you can connect with parents, or closing celebration nights of your year?
We just have a ceremony at the end, and then the gathering place has cupcakes and desserts, and usually a lot of people they linger around and they talk and things.
Hey, John, do you want to repeat that for us? We had trouble hearing that person.
Yeah, at the end of our award ceremony, we always have a time out in our gathering space here outside the sanctuary for refreshments for everyone in attendance. And I will say that typically our closing ceremony, even if we have a parents' night or anything we do, the closing ceremony is the best attended night of the year when it comes to adults. We get other members from the church who aren't always involved in Awana, just to come out and see how things are. And a lot of the parents do show up, and that's the sad part of it is that's a great opportunity for us to connect. But since we're wrapping up the year, sometimes we're so wrapped up in, okay, it's time to rest a little bit, that we gotta close out and just let everybody get out of here, and we miss an opportunity.
Wow, that's so true. You know, that's so true. Yep.
But they come to the
we would have several of the kids from each club group perform something. Either they would say a section of verses, or if they wanted to play the piano, or if they wanted to sing a special song they learned during the year, we'd have them do that. And then we'd always have either an ice cream social afterward, or sometimes we would have, you know, hot dogs ahead of time just to make it a big family night so that we had everybody coming, and then they stayed and our pastor would come and do a brief message, and then we'd have the kids entertain, and oftentimes the whole kids club would come up and sing their song so the parents could hear them as a group singing. And so it would take about an hour and a half to do the whole thing, but parents really appreciated some effort being made to showcase their kids.
Yeah, that's great, Becky. I'm telling you what, guys, you get kids up on a stage doing something, even if it's 30 seconds, that will get parents to come. That's just how that's parents, right? They want to see their kids and they want to see the kids do something. Chris, you had something to share?
Well, I was just going to go off of what John was saying, with other people coming, not just parents from the church. There's so many people from our own churches that don't really realize what all goes on at Awana. And so an end of the year celebration where you can talk about the number of verses memorized, what those awards mean, what was accomplished, what did they do during the year. It speaks volume to just even church members as to what's going on, to maybe they even want to be involved in it. And don't do what we did the first year. We had an awards night where we got all the kids that had finished books. Those are the only children we celebrated. So we had them come up as a group to do something, and then we passed out the awards. Well, guess what happened to the parent participation the following year? It dive bombed because each parent wants to see their child cross the stage. And so after that, we celebrated everybody, whether it was with a participation certificate, and I had blank ones ready to go signed for that night. So if somebody brought a visitor and they crossed the stage, with a participation certificate. And then of course we did celebrate the book awards as well. But we celebrated every child that participated in whatever capacity they did. And our parent involvement increased tenfold with it. But there's a lot of times that's kind of why to have the special things, whether it's at Christmas, the end of the year, a parents' night, but the parents may not enter the door of a church for any other reason but to see their child. And so seize those opportunities to share the gospel, because they may not have the opportunity to hear it at any other time because they're not coming into church on off times. It's also a great time to pass out your VBS information or any of your summer ministries to parents, to keep them engaged even when it's not Awana.
Yeah, one thing we like to do, we started doing was our kids, when they finished 6th grade, obviously TNT, they were graduating into the youth group, and we would actually bring all of our 6th graders up. We'd have our youth leaders or our youth pastor come up, and we would kind of do a handoff to them right up there because they were continuing their youth ministry stuff through the summer. And so it was almost like a graduation to youth, and we kind of made a big deal out of that because we wanted them to connect with the youth people. You could, you think about that, you could even do that for your 2nd graders in 3rd grade, and whatever they're moving to, you could even kind of give them that and introduce the leaders to them, who they'll be with. Maybe that transition will go easier. Anything else? Yeah, Ashley.
We take pictures throughout the year, so at the end of the year, the parents get to see what the kids did, and we're hoping that encourages them to participate in some way.
Love that. Yeah, so that's part of your closing. You would show like a slideshow or something, or what's that look like?
Yeah, so each group, depending on how many kids, would get 1 minute to 3 minutes, and it just goes and shows them during game time, during lesson time, while they're going and crafting, when they're eating snack.
Yeah. They kind of see, hey, that's what's going on, you know, on a club night. What are our kids doing? And
Oh yeah.
that's great. Very good. You know, Chris, as you were talking about our ending night, you know, one thing, we had all those parents there, and I thought, you know, one thing we never did, we never really went out of our way and thanked those parents who were sitting there, did we? You know, we might have said some token words, but we weren't intentional enough to, hey, parents, thank you for putting enough trust in us, for letting us minister to your kids. And thank you for, you know, bringing them here and working with them. Boy, what a great way to recognize and thank those parents for allowing us to minister and partner with them in ministry. So, hey, we are at an hour, guys, and we really try to keep these to that. Any other just closing? If you're just busting, there's just something you want to say. This is your time right now.
No question. I just had to ask them if they were busting. They're behind me.
Hey, John, I'm keeping an eye on them, buddy. I can see so I get it.
Well, I want to apologize for not contributing too much, but I'm new to this. I'm trying to learn, so hopefully I'll be able to do better later on. So I got some good ideas tonight, though, to do for the middle of the year and the end of the year. So thank you all.
Nancy, I'm so glad you joined us.
Finally got to make it.
Oh, that's so great. You know, you're just starting your journey. That's so neat. So it's so good to have you with.
Sorry about that. Hopefully I'll learn.
Sure. Well, hey, we just put a place there at the end, you know, just for you all to think about, you know, what things are we going to do this year? Even it's almost November. What are we going to do? It's not too late to be connecting with kids. So, hey, I just want to thank you all for attending. We pray that it's been an encouragement to you. We pray that you've got some things, some new ideas, that it's been, you know, a good challenge in the areas of connecting with parents. And that's so important, isn't it? Because we want to partner with them. And we recognize, you know, that's the model that's God set up, and it doesn't work in every situation. We get it. But let's do everything we can to connect with them, with moms and dads, get to know them, build relationships, and they see us as their friends. And who knows, maybe some will come to Jesus this year because of their child attending your Awana Club. So with that, let me pray, and we'll be done. Father, we thank you, Lord, for this night. Thank you, God, so much for the privilege it is to minister with kids each and every week, that we can share them the hope of Jesus, share the gospel with these kids, and just guide them through what it means to be a follower of Jesus. And Lord, I just pray for our efforts around connecting with moms and dads this year. Give us creativity, give us wisdom, Lord. May we seek it from you, and Lord, make us take advantage of every opportunity you give us to connect with a parent. And we'll thank you for that in Jesus' name. Amen.